They're the reporters who first exposed Joseph Estrada's hidden wealth. Now they've got some revelations about Gloria Arroyo. This week, the Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism released a three-part report on President Arroyo and her husband Mike's unexplained increase in wealth. Defenders of the first couple have said that the report was flawed and sought to explain the growth in the president's wealth by saying it came from investments in stocks and real estate. The First Gentleman's lawyer, Arroyo, appeared on the show last night and sought to poke holes in the PCIJ report. Tonight, we talked to one of the report's authors on the big picture. The PCIJ says that President Arroyo's statements of assets and liabilities was incomplete. They also say that some of their investments in real estate seem tainted with irregularity. But while the president's lawyers try to explain all of this, one question remains unanswered. How exactly did the president get so rich while she was in office? Joining me in the studio is the executive director of the PCIJ, Malou Mangahas. Thank you for coming. Good evening, and welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Well, you've heard the defenses by Romy Macalintal and Rui Rondain. They're saying that it wasn't researched enough and that you maybe failed to appreciate some of the items in the disclosures, and they go into detail about why they think so. But you were saying that this has been a very rigorous process.
That's right. Actually, this is for the benefit of the people who read the story that we decided to come here today. We don't usually talk about our stories or make ourselves the center of the story. First off, I think we've disclosed that over the last 3 months, we've looked at the statements of assets and liabilities of the president, but also register of deeds records, corporate records, land titles, and also tried to analyze our data sets with the help of experts. Look at the story, no political opposition source is there because we precisely avoided them. We went to tax analysts, fund managers, and also in the end, and lawyers also who were independent. So I think in all, this was 3 months' work. Before this, we did a public works contracts under Arroyo. That was 4 months' work. So 7 months' work in all went into the writing of this story.
Okay, tell me a little bit about some of the things that, if we may, some of the things that they brought up. I think what the explanation that's coming out is that there were investments in real estate and in the stock market, and that was the primary source of the increase in their wealth.
Yeah.
They're saying that there was nothing irregular about that. The stock market goes up, real estate prices go up.
Yeah. I think if you look at the story, it's a simple enough story. It's a story about reports submitted by the president from the time she was senator in 1992, and then to the present. So 17 years worth of statements of assets. And we're not measuring the president here against any other standards except her own. The story simply says that when she was senator and vice president, Mrs. Arroyo was very transparent. Now suddenly she turned very stingy with data. So that started us asking questions really.
Like why?
Like why? I mean, for 7 years, she didn't declare any companies in which she has business or financial interests. No salary, no employment for the first gentleman. So this is the standard that Mrs. Arroyo had set for herself, not anybody else.
Let's backtrack a little bit. When she was a senator, she was required to file statements of assets and liabilities.
That's right.
And you're saying that if you compare the detail in which that is provided on those statements, that they're much more exhaustive than the detail that she was provided once she became president.
That's right.
So after she became president, important details began to be left out.
That's right. Now, we decided to do this story because first off, I think the only reason we wanted to do this is because people are not taking the SAL-N law very seriously. And it matters to us citizens and journalists because in 1999 to 2001, we worked on the Estrada stories, the unexplained wealth of Joseph Estrada. Mrs. Arroyo came to the presidency backed by a people power revolt against corruption. And she had served
and may I add, and you're not going to say this, but I'll say it, it was the PCIJ exposés on Mr. Estrada's wealth that helped galvanize public opinion.
That's right.
And I think he himself has already placed the blame on PCIJ to a large extent for his eventual ouster. So this was something that many research that you've done, that many people believe that has actually affected political events, and you're applying the same process.
Exactly the same process. We looked at the documents. All official sources have been, these are the sources from government agencies. We looked at, we did a reverse search of the companies in their name in the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission. We looked at property titles, visited the properties, looked at land records, etc. And I think it stands to reason that Mrs. Arroyo should be grateful that we are doing this, because this was within her oath of office as president, that she should set the example. So this is a standard, not simply a question of, I think Mr. Rondain makes a big beef about, is it token? It's in the dictionary. I don't know, in lawyers' lingo, he doesn't know what token is. But Mrs. Arroyo swore by the Constitution that she would follow the law and be accountable. And that's the only point. We don't want to do this actually again. We don't want to do this 6 years from now when we have a new president. So the only point really was to make people actually follow the SALN law.
You're not done yet, are you?
Well, there are many more things. When the PCIJ comes out with a story, we want to assert only that which we could support, with documents, with testimonial evidence. And I don't think Mr. Rondain has any other point to teach us about journalism. I know that he comes from Cornell, but that's law. Journalism is something different. I think the first standard is Mrs. Arroyo's standard. As senator, she was more transparent. Now, very stingy. Second standard, her own league of presidents. 3 presidents she had served herself. So I don't think anybody's asking her to do anything different. She was the one who downgraded her degree of compliance.
So she's the one who's become less willing to comply and less transparent.
I believe so.
Some of the things that you found, and this is sort of, I think, to my mind, in some order of importance, an incomplete statement of assets and liabilities. Correct me if I'm wrong, but what you seem to have found is that there were certain assets that were not disclosed, ownership of which were not disclosed in her statement of assets and liabilities. Is that correct?
Like the companies. This was precisely what happened also with Mr. Estrada. Some companies still in the name of the Arroyos, according to SEC records, either, we said, as incorporators, shareholders, or they have business or financial connections with it, or beneficial owners or board members. They're still in the SEC records. I don't think Mr. Rondain could say that the SEC is really wrong, because these are records, and today we move to the newspapers PDF copies of the certifications we've obtained. Next, we asked the SEC, were there deeds of assignments or divestment certificates that were issued? I think it was on day 2 of the story when Mr. Rondain said, oh, they've divested. Suddenly that line disappeared already. Now, my point also is, maybe Attorney Macalintal and Attorney Rondain mean well. But to us, really, what was more important was to get the Ombudsman and the Civil Service Commission to talk, because they are the relevant sources here. Not yet the lawyers of the President and the First Gentleman. They're not parties to the discussion yet, because no suit has been filed. And Mr. Rondain says that, well, file suit. He knows very well, as a lawyer, the President has immunity until her term ends. So, I mean, they're not, I don't even know whether they're serving the President as private counsel or public counsel. The last time we checked, they are not enrolled as assistants or advisors or consultants of the President, and there are 5 dozens of them.
They're not government employees.
They're not government.